Hello scholars, welcome to Warframe Academy. My name is Chili and today's episode is all about mag. Yes, so welcome to the second episode of Warframe Highlights, where I cover all the different Warframes, how to get them, how to make them good, how to play them, and how to build them. Today's episode is honestly a little bit special to me. Mag was my original Warframe back in 2017 when I played the game on my PS4 during my college years. I actually have my old mag to this very day thanks to the old account merge. I also fully admit that I had no idea how to fashion a Warframe so long ago. And real quick, before we get into it, stay until the very end of the video for a very important update about the future of the channel, please. As a rough overview, Mag runs the missions by controlling the playing field. Her abilities all directly affect enemies' core mechanics down to even controlling where their bullets land and where enemies can exist. She is honestly fantastic from the early game all the way into the late game where she absolutely flourishes. By being all about crowd control, she actually scales and gets better and better with how many enemies are around her, giving her abilities way more bang for their buck. So let's start where all Warframes start, acquisition. The first way to get Mag is to simply choose her as your starting frame. Super no strings and a lot of you watching have already done this. However, in order to get Mag after the prologue, you have to fight the Sergeant fight over on Iliad Phobos. He drops all of her component blueprints besides her main BP, which can be bought from the in-game market for 25,000 credits. She can also be bought outright for 75 platinum, which includes a reactor, so much like Excalibur, this is a great way to get her immediately without having to farm and is cheaper than rushing all of her opponents at the Foundry. The base version of Mag can also be obtained from the Deviri circuit during certain weekly rotations. Please check the wiki to see how far that will be for you, and a fully built version of her can be bought from Teshin for 60,000 Conclave standing. Funnily enough, as of writing, her Prime variant is actually selling on Warframe Market for about 74 plat, but you'll eventually need both for mastery experience regardless. You can also farm her from the following relics. As of writing, these relics are currently vaulted, but that is constantly changing, so that might be true as of when you're watching this video. Now, let's have a quick chat about how to play Mag going forward by abilities, playstyle, augments, and general tips. So as I said in the intro, Mag is all about controlling the battlefield through abilities. Her one ability is a pull that drags all enemies in a cone in front of her range dependent. This ragdolls everyone in her effective range and groups them together, making them a great target for a shotgun, a teammate, or her 4 ability. The respective augment for this is called Greedy Pull, and it simply allows her pull to also affect a manner of drops around her, including energy, health orbs, ammo, materials, void reactor, and frankly probably a dozen other things I'm not thinking about. However, like all control abilities, it will not work on enemies that have overguard, namely Eximus units, and will require either disabling or damaging before her ability will affect them. Pull is also Mag's subsume ability, meaning that once the helmet has been fed, you can actually place Pull onto other Warframes. I'd strongly suggest putting both Pull and the augment Greedy Pull on any Warframe you want to use for farming. Hydroid, Korra specifically benefit quite well, as they are most used for standing in one spot, allowing you to grab energy and health without straying too far from the zone you've put on lockdown. Her second ability is Magnetize, which actually works in 2 different ways depending on how you press the button. If you're targeting an enemy and you tap the cast button, Mag will create a magnetic bubble around the targeted enemy, trapping them in stasis. The magnetic field will also draw all nearby enemy gunfire into the bubble, storing all the damage and then dealing it to the trapped enemy once the ability timer runs out, therefore also keeping the damage away from Mag. However, if you hold down the ability button, Mag creates a smaller bubble in her own hands. Again, mechanically the same, trapping gunfire and protecting Mag from damage. However, once the player lets go of the button or the duration runs out, the stored damage is then dealt out in a burst of damage to all of the enemies in front of her. The matching augment, Magnetized Discharge, actually allows you to recast the ability over any enemy trapped in her magnetic bubble, prematurely detonating the bubble and disarming all enemies within the explosive radius. The augment also has a secondary effect, increasing the effective range of Mag's passive ability. Talking of her passive, I'll be frank, her passive is terrible and is easily outclassed. It basically causes all drops within a small radius of Mag to slowly float towards her and automatically gather themselves. The issues arise when you get a single companion with a fetch type mod, as this will immediately make her passive redundant. Speaking of survivability, her 3 ability Polarize creates a zone around her that strips armor and shields away from all enemies within the radius, opening them up for attack. It also destroys containers and props, adding their debris to her radius that harms enemies with slash procs. This is super good as a panic button, as it gives you some room to dispatch some of the tankier enemies and also, destroys the environment to let it do a little bit of heavy lifting too. And the matching augment Counterpulse simply disables all guns and robotic type enemies within the radius of the ability. Some may argue that this ability should do that regardless, but frankly that is a subject discussed by creators much smarter and more established than I am. And finally, her 4th ability, Crush, is very much what it says on the tin. It stops enemies in their tracks and folds them like deck chairs. This simply deals a set of both regular and magnetic type damage and then converts the damage into shields for Mag and her nearby allies. The associated augment is called Fracturing Crush, which makes the ability cast faster, removes enemy armor, and immobilizes them for 7 seconds post knockdown. It's a very good augment, and I rarely see it being used in build. As Mag, your core loop is either pressing 4 a lot, or pulling, magnetizing, and then polarizing before unloading the Pore Bubble into an enemy. So now I will quickly go over how to build Mag to get the most out of her. Realistically, you want range and efficiency the most as Mag, because she is a total Casterframe, meaning that you're going to be constantly pressing her ability buttons, constantly draining energy, especially for playing her correctly. All of her abilities scale amazingly well with range, allowing her to control even more of the battlefield and completely locking it down. The major issue with Mag is that she really enjoys all 4 of the major modding stats, so it's really hard to justify using corrupted mods with her, although you will see them. And therefore, you will be locked out of a lot of your highest numbers if you're not willing to make that compromise. The only other compromise I can see is that some players really tank their duration. I actually trolled through pages and pages and pages of Mag builds online on Overframe and on the subreddit and stuff, and there is very little consensus on how to build her between Mag mains. I even watched the hour-long Mag video by Suckma as well as Kiai's Mag perfected videos just to make this one. What I have settled on for my Mag is a build that I recently took all the way through Elite Temporal Archimedian, which for the newer players in the audience is the highest level a mission can start on, so I personally believe this build is really fantastic, at least as far as my experience has been. The aforementioned principles honestly apply to Mag at any stage in content, and for the newer players, rest assured that if you pick Mag as your starter frame, she'll be your wingman from the start to the very end and beyond. Perpetual beta game and whatnot. Thank you for watching through another video, scholars. I truly hope you enjoyed this one because this was the single biggest video I've had to make so far. For this reason, I'm actually changing the upload schedule to just 1 video a week from now on. To be very honest, 2 videos a week plus my real life was a very ambitious goal, and I truly underestimated how complex some of these videos could be. The Mag video has taken me 3 rewrites and many scrapped recordings to make, plus good knows how much editing this will end up requiring. I'll be uploading every Wednesday from now on, Warframe Wednesday perhaps, at noon, British time from now on. I'll upload something extra if it feels, you know, good to make and is incredibly stimulating for me, but for now I have to prioritize the quality of the videos over just getting them out. And thank you to my most dedicated viewers for getting the channel to over 200 subscribers. That's a number I'd never thought I'd see on my own YouTube channel. We also have a Patreon, as many of you may know, but I'd love to see you over there, even as free members. I don't offer much in the way of incentive, but it just helps me to make these videos happen, like my amazing artist QQ. As always, my Patreon is linked in the description, and it's another great place for you guys to nag my ear off about things you'd love to see me cover. And frankly, it's a lot emptier than my YouTube comments, so I'll be far more likely to be able to respond and even act on them. Thank you to Dydra and Default Account for the continued paid membership over on the Patreon, as well as all the free members right here. And stay tuned for the next video coming out on Wednesday, where I'll be covering Deguth. Yes, I'm making a second Warframe highlight video in a row. Seeing as DE giving her away as an event at the minute, I decided that it'd be the best time to teach all of you scholars about how to get the most out of our local Uma Musume fan. Bye for now, scholars, until next time.